everybody. Good evening. Happy Wednesday. I missed you yesterday. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for staying patient yesterday. I hope you got your newsletter. I tried to pack it with as much as possible details and information so you don't feel like you're missing out on a day. But I'm very happy to be back talking to you and to discuss everything. And we have three rallies to cover. We have the big, of course, news about the VP's teammate pick, which of course you know about since yesterday. But we're going to review some of his clips as to what went down yesterday at a rally in Pennsylvania, what happened today. Also, JD Vance going absolutely bonkers, running to Air Force Two, trying to speak to Kamala Harris. What's that all about? Then we're going to discuss actual news, also some international news, news from England, news on the Middle East. Today was also a pretty extensive briefing with National Security Council and the spokesperson and communications director, John Kirby. So I'm going to update you on the Middle East issues as well. Ukraine, Russia, what's going on there? What does White House say about that? So we're going to cover it all. So very happy to talk to you again. If you're joining for the very first time, please comment. Please ask questions. Please let me know what you think. Okay. And if you don't agree with something that I say and you have other facts that contradict anything I say, please let me know. And, I gladly stay corrected. Anyway, here from Twitter. Lisa. Okay, Lisa thinks that we're clowns. Hey, Lisa. JB. Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Hi, I think it's the YouTube. Hi, Tyet. Thank you. Good evening. Very happy to see you, Brandon Marshall. Hi. Happy to see you. Okay. Awesome. Let's start because we have a lot to get to and a lot of clips. And hence I'm late. I was cutting clips, literally. That's what I've been doing half of my day. So let's begin. First, of course, yesterday, the biggest news, Kamala Harris finally announced her VP pick, her running mate pick, and this is Tim Walz. I must say he's growing on me. I thought he is a very lovable, wonderful guy. Now I'm learning more about him, learned way more yesterday and the day before that. As to his biography, I completely understand where the Kamala Harris campaign is coming from. He is Midwestern. He is relatable. We're going to also, for instance, today discuss his finances and what does he have, what does he own and does not own. And this makes him relatable, real. Also, as a guy who would understand what matters to us and what do we want, right? Not those who are coming from Silicon Valley or those who are sitting not at a kitchen table, but around a huge table discussing how can they avoid taxes because they are, billionaires or gazillionaires. So I kind of really appreciate him as a VP pick. I think it's very well balanced. This is, again, my opinion, but share yours. Okay. Check out the comments real quick. Okay, Lisa. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, so first, let's read from Kamala Harris in case you missed out on her statement as to why she picked Tim Walz. So she says yesterday, quote, "I'm proud to announce that I've asked Governor Tim Walz to be my running mate. One of the things that stood out to me about Tim is how his convictions on fighting for middle class families run deep. It's personal. As a governor, as a coach, a teacher, and a veteran, he's delivered for working families like his own. We're going to build a great partnership. We start out as underdogs, but I believe together we can win this election." And so she sets the tone. They're starting as underdogs. Well, they have only about 3 months to even reintroduce themselves as a ticket together as Harris Walz and to introduce him really to the public and to allow others to fall in love with him and to see the reason behind her picking him. So yes, underdogs, absolutely. We know Trump. By this time, unfortunately, we know JD Vance. So, there's nothing new in that regard, although to the creepiness and the weirdness, there are levels, as we learned today, and today they certainly elevated. I mean, even I was surprised. Like somebody's running to Air Force Two. going through security, screaming, "I want to see my next plane." What are you talking about, boy? But we're going to review it, and we got to actually hear from him what he told reporters. So President Biden obviously approved of Kamala Harris's choice in her running mate. Quote, "The first major decision a party nominee makes is their choice for vice president. And Kamala Harris has made a great decision in choosing Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. I've known Tim Walz for nearly 2 decades, first during his time in Congress and as governor. A husband, a father, he's been a school teacher and a high school football coach. He served for 24 years in the Army National Guard and became the highest ranking enlisted soldier to ever serve in Congress. As governor, he's been a strong, principled, and effective leader. The Harris Walz ticket will be a powerful voice for working people and America's great middle class. This will be the strongest defenders of our personal freedoms and our democracy. And they will ensure that America continues to lead the world and play its role as the indispensable nation." And so President Biden continues, "It's time for all Democrats and indeed all Americans committed to freedom, democracy, and American leadership in the world to rally behind Harris Walz ticket. Every generation of Americans faces a moment where where they're asked to defend American democracy. That moment is now." So this is what President Biden said and also posted across his social media platforms as to his approval of Kamala Harris's pick in her running mate. So former President Obama also issued a statement. He posted it as a picture all across social media platforms. He said, "When the presidential candidate chooses a running mate, it says a lot about who they are and what kind of president they'll be. Do they pick someone inexperienced and polarizing who will deepen our divisions? Or do they pick someone with the judgment to make tough decisions and the character to believe that every voice counts and everyone deserves an equal change?" And this is obviously a hint on JD Vance. You pick somebody inexperienced who literally doesn't give a damn about anybody else but his leader, his cult leader, and his own live couches, dolphins, and whatnot. So now let's review what happened at the very first Harris Walz rally, which was yesterday in Pennsylvania, which I think was the main factor behind literally everybody talking about Shapiro being the choice because, oh, she's going to Pennsylvania, so obviously it's going to be Shapiro because it's going to be on his homeland. Whoop, whoop. We saw what happened. So next time, let's wait. Let's not jump into conclusions before you know the facts, before there's actually time and there is an announcement. Okay? Because otherwise, so many people look like less than smart on the yard right after sort of the announcement was there because people said, oh, it's going to be Cali or Shapiro, and nobody spoke about Walz. But here we go. We're waltzing right into the White House. So, right before the rally started, look at the atmosphere that was yesterday in Pennsylvania. How amazing! Your comments. Governor Walz stayed loyal to President Biden, and that meant a lot to VP Harris. It means a lot to me too. And Terry, thank you for your comment. And by the way, I've heard that too. And it is, I also heard that Shapiro was a bit, let's say, too ambitious, to put it this way, where he laid down his plans as VP. Certainly, as a woman president, as the first female president, you want to be confident, you want to have a stable base of supporters and those who will go into the fight with you and for you. And so Tim Walz appears to be that guy, certainly. Will you be looking into complete lack of Trump ground game field offices? There's nothing to look at because he doesn't have money. And all the money that they're getting from Silicon Valley and also donors from those shoes and the Bibles and with 10 amendments, Constitution amendments. I checked it. It's horrible. Anyway, all that money goes towards his court cases and his lawyers and, paying out porn stars or whoever hasn't spoken yet. So there is no money. He still owes hundreds of thousands of dollars for the events that were hosted for the previous election. Therefore, all his rallies are outdoors because he cannot afford paying for an arena. And people are not falling for the okie doke anymore. But I certainly can look into it or request them to comment. I have never heard of Walz before the last 2 weeks. So far, there's nothing I don't like about him. And that's exactly how I feel. I mean, how often would we speak about Minnesota? But then yesterday, unfortunately, we haven't spoken enough about it. But yesterday, when I listened to him, when he talked about common sense gun laws, when he talked about providing kids with lunches, regardless to their income levels or their families' income levels, this all makes sense. And it's really refreshing that somebody has joy in what he does, serving people with joy. How rare is that? Because we're surrounded by everybody who's so driven by their ego that it's so negative. It's like, give me, give me, give me, give me, give me, without what are you going to take, what are you going to give us, right? Who will be selecting you. Why did the Secret Service allow JD Vance? This is a good question. This is a good question. And unfortunately, that happened after our meeting with national security. Obviously, that is national security, but I certainly will forward that question to the White House because this is alarming, honestly. Jazzy Diva, what's up? What's up, Jazzy Diva? We here. We're up. Amazing. Yes. Okay, cool. Okay, let's continue. So the first big speakers that had to line up, Governor Shapiro spoke. And of course, people were like, oh, is he bitter? Is he nasty? Is he this? Is he that? He was very charismatic, very smooth. He talked to, people of Pennsylvania. Obviously, he's their governor. They love him. He's very much beloved and understood and appreciated. So he reiterated his message that he will be serving his people, right? And then he pledged his commitment to electing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Take a look at the first video. It's 1.5 minutes, so stay patient.
I'm going to be working my tail off to make sure we make Kamala Harris and Tim Walz the next leaders of the United States of America. That's right. Let me tell you about my friend Kamala Harris, someone I've been friends with for 2 decades. She is courtroom tough. She has a big heart. And she is battle tested and ready to go. Whether in a courtroom, whether fighting as Attorney General, whether remembering the people who have oftentimes been left behind when she was sitting in the halls of power in the Senate, Kamala Harris has always understood that you got to be every day for the people, for the people. And she has served with honesty. She has served with dignity. And every step of the way, she's broken barriers to serve all of us.
And then he reminded us how the world was when Donald Trump was president. This is very brief, just 17 seconds.
What it was like when Donald Trump was our president. We remember when he was president, it was more chaos, fewer jobs, and less freedom.
Yeah. And to your point, Shapiro and Buttigieg will both be excellent to have out there campaigning. Absolutely. I do think they will be ending up in the cabinet, in Kamala Harris's cabinet, in very upscale roles. So we'll see. We'll see. I think they will be senior administrative positions. Shapiro, Okay, I read that out. And thank you for commenting on that Secret Service. I would say fiasco today at the or at the on the tarmac, with the Air Force Two being sort of approached by JD Vance. We're going to talk about it. We're going to review the videos, but I certainly will forward that question to the White House. Besides you, who else recommend to consume news from? And this question, you asked yesterday and today a lot on X, and I do understand where you're coming from, and I'm feeling for you. I don't watch much television, to put it this way. But when I work in pool, right, in vice president pool and first lady's pool and President Biden's pool, and so often I work side by side with great reporters, and I mentioned that from PBS, who were honest in their reporting, because we would be, discussing what goes into the poll messages, and they were very authentic, like as much as when we cover like July 4th events, that where so much is going on and you can make so much gossip and just BS. They were very factual, very straightforward. So PBS is other reporters who I would recommend, because I saw them at work. Now, when it comes to the news, let me know when you watch PBS if that sort of resonates with you. I'm subscribed to PBS documentaries because I'm that nerd. But again, this is what I can recommend because I see those people at work. But mainstream media, a lot of messaging comes from down up. Up down, so they have to serve their CEO, who also serves their sponsors. So, tricky. Pete is great transportation secretary, but will with his language skills makes him good choice for that is my question. Yeah. So Secretary Blinken is amazing, but if you were to retire or be replaced for whatever reason, I think Buttigieg is fantastic choice for that. Yes. I must admit, Buttigieg may end up, state secretary, and I totally trust his judgment. Yeah, exactly. So that's just to the point. All cabinet members of President Biden must by law resign on the day of inauguration. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yes. If anyone is reappointed, they have to go through the same process of appointment, going through Congress to confirm. Yeah. And I'm not sure if Secretary Blinken will do that. I mean, it's been tough 4 years, so much negotiating, so much travel. I follow all his statements and travel. It's insane, just insane. I like PBS, no TV. What about The Guardian? Depends. Depends. I would say it depends. Interesting coverage of Ukrainian issues with the Guardian. So also with the Biden pass the torch, I would rather use that as the lens to see who was saying the truth, who didn't, and use that to base your judgment on, because that was really out there in your face, sort of like a propaganda thing. I mean, I have no other words to describe it, because that was just out of blue, pathetically aggressive. So I would use that as the lens to seek through, who's a good choice in terms of information. By law, with due respect, yes. So by law, they have to resign and then go through the appointing and approval, certainly, in the Congress. Okay, so let's continue. Vice President Harris introduced Team Walz, and but first of all, she set the tone. Remember, I read her statement where she said we're underdogs, but we're going to win. Take a look.
We are the underdogs in this race, but we have the momentum, and I know exactly what we are up against.
So yeah, the Guardian is also not great on staying impartial in other issues like J.K. Rowling's gender crusades. Why are some in the poll asking questions about transfer like today? Because they want us to talk about them. And we do, and that's all they want. I have no other explanation, because there's no reason to ask those questions, and I'll show you that question. Those people appointed as acting were appointed by Donald, not a holdover from Obama. Okay. All right. Let's move on so we don't lose our pace, and then I'm gonna check the comments. Okay. So Vice President Harris introduced Tim Walz. Take a listen. That's the very first time she introduced him as her running mate. I mean, he's so genuinely happy to be there. And I don't think this is insecurity, because some people laugh when they're insecure, some are crying, or some are shy. I think it's confidence. I think it's just honest joy, And what I love about him is that he's not making things up. And he's embracing his entire biography and his entire journey, and shows us that a boy born in a tiny town can make it to the White House, hopefully, right? And that he can rally, and the entire nation can rally behind him. And he is supporting the first female president, woman of color. Like, it's so, there's so much beauty in it and depth. So that, together with the really sincere joy, just makes it more pleasant to look at, Okay. So then Tim Walz spoke. And, there's a bit of a side story. So it was reported that during the vetting process, he told the Harris campaign that he has never read off of teleprompter. And, I've been trained to host with the teleprompter. I do all of this without teleprompter. My notes are here, right? But to learn how to read off of a teleprompter in front of you, or the glass things as you see at those rallies on the right and on the left at the White House as well. That's why they're speaking here and then turning here, and it's all like camera angles, is a lot. It takes a TV host or a news anchor so much practice to do it. So running around like a chicken with your head off, but also with those two teleprompters, not to lose your thread. Like it really takes time to learn, right? Especially if they're working like with the earpiece or anything like that. So it's so genuine, where he said, I've never worked with that. And so now, same day, he's chosen to be the VP, and he's at the very first rally. So keep that in mind when you watch him speak. He learned it by heart. And he's delivering it to you without any notes, without any teleprompters. And those emotions are genuine. And this is really charisma. Okay. So first video, Walz highlighted Shapiro because they were in Pennsylvania, and he spoke how he actually admires him. And then he spoke about Donald Trump, touching on the matter if Trump actually understands a sense of service, explaining why he wouldn't.
Now, Donald Trump sees the world a little differently than us. First of all, he doesn't know the first thing about service. He doesn't have time for it because he's too busy serving himself.
And he, you'll see, will deliver so many one-liners with just calm and coolness as a cucumber, and just making everybody explode with emotion and laughter, and, it's pure sarcasm. So next, he talked about Donald Trump's crimes. Let's take a look.
He sows chaos and division, and that's to say nothing of his record as president. He froze in the face of the COVID crisis. He drove our economy into the ground. And make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
That's not even counting the crimes he committed. The crimes were up, and that's not even counting the crimes he committed. Thank you so much. I love reporting and fair and true analysis. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And by the way, I'm reading your comments. I'm highlighting them as we go because you comment on what we're saying. So I love it. So he's touching on the matters where it gets sensitive. And hence, then you'll see Trump and Vance start responding because he's touching up on them in a classy manner, delivering those one-liners, showing that he understands what's at stake and he understands where it hurts. Mhm. And he is not afraid to touch upon that. So he also spoke about the need for common sense gun laws. Take a listen.
By the way, as you heard, I was one of the best shots in Congress, but in Minnesota, we believe in the Second Amendment, but we also believe in common sense gun violence laws.
And I think this is the biggest point here. I think two things that he delivered. This is the very first message, and the second one will be about the kitchen table and talking about your problems and how Donald Trump cannot relate to that situation. The common sense gun laws, this is a biggie because this is what, together with the border, right? And the border czar that MAGAville has appointed, Kamala Harris as, which is bonkers and just a complete lie and just stupid at this point. That together with the law, with the gun laws, and that they want to take your guns away and all of this. This statement, his statement, and his experience in executing such laws, that will play a major role. And this will give folks on the left hope and folks on the right also hope. Because that is different types of hope. One is a hope of protection. One is a hope of not restricting your fundamental rights and freedoms, which I think has a chance, right, to satisfy both sides. So let's continue. He then also spoke about importance of freedom of choice, and then referred to Republicans actually being such folks who actually talked about freedoms. Speak to the hand. And Terry, you mentioned his IVF story. So he did share the IVF story that him and his wife went through. That's why this topic is very personal to him. And so he talked a bit more about it. Let's take a listen.
When my wife and I decided to have children, we spent years going through infertility treatments. And I remember praying every night for a call for good news. The pit in my stomach when the phone rang, and the agony when we heard that the treatments hadn't worked. So it wasn't by chance that when we welcomed our daughter into the world, we named her Hope. When Vice President and I talk about freedom, we mean the freedom to make your own healthcare decisions. And for our children to be free to go to school without worrying they'll be shot dead in their classrooms.
And this is the point where he delivered. I think those two subjects, right? The first one, exactly this: common sense gun violence laws, and the freedom of keeping your guns, but also the freedom of going to school, right? And the safety, not worrying that your kid will be not returning home, to put it this way. Now, the second point where he won his audience, and I think this was a very key sentence, was about that kitchen table, because so many can refer to that and relate to that. Take a listen.
Donald Trump's not fighting for you or your family. He never sat at that kitchen table like the one I grew up at, wondering how we were going to pay the bills. He sat at his country club up in Mar-a-Lago, wondering how he can cut taxes for his rich friends.
Yeah. Remember those two things: the gun laws and kitchen around and sitting around the kitchen table. Very relatable. All of us have been in that position, right? Most of us. Meanwhile, Donald Trump only sits around the table, thinking how he can and his friend can avoid tax, or how he can cut the tax for his friends once he's in office. And he already executed on that. So those two things, I think, are very major. And he delivered. And Lisa, this was brilliant freedom speech. Yeah, absolutely. Whoever wrote this speech and how he delivered, and by heart, right? He's not reading anything. He doesn't have any notes. It was brilliant. And Hope is a beautiful name, and she's a very beautiful girl. Recently, I shared a video. He filmed like an ad in Minnesota. They passed the law of hands-free driving, and so they did this hilarious ad where they both tried to like recite the lines and couldn't. She's beautiful in and out. So, and you want that on the t-shirt somewhere. Wait, um, yeah, mind your own damn business. Okay, I hear you. Yeah, I'd wear the t-shirt too. Okay, let's continue. So then he also touched upon JD Vance, and that's what set off the alarms in MAGAville. I want you to listen through this 1 minute and 13 seconds because it's worth it. Trust me. Kadam! Okay, so readouts. By the way, Tim Walz, the Democratic vice presidential nominee, has expressed his readiness to debate Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance, criticizing Vance's record and readiness. The debate, initially proposed for August, is now being negotiated by CBS for a date in September. Both candidates have exchanged criticism, with Walz questioning Vance's willingness to debate, and Vance attacking Walz's military service and political positions. The anticipation for the debate is high, as it is seen as a significant event in the run-up to the 2024 presidential election. So, September on CBS. By the way, also off the topic, and I digress, President Biden recorded an interview with CBS tonight. He recorded it. It will premiere on August 11th. I will give you the links. I will give you, all the ways to watch it online without any commentary, but really to consume it in full, as one full video. So we're looking forward to that. Karine Jean-Pierre, the spokesperson at the White House, was asked about the details and the notion and the point of that interview, and she said, stay tuned. It's really President Biden talking about his decision, talking about what he's planning to do for 5 months, and also talking about his overall achievement. Also, I will be speaking to you guys. We're going to have a town hall next, in a week or so. So if you subscribe to Substack, you're going to get the invite, because there is an interview I will be working on, and I want your input, so I can forward some questions that are of an interest to you. So I don't want to reveal too much, but there will be several people and a very different approach to interviews. So your feedback and your input will be very much appreciated. So now, next is Tim Walz concluded by pointing out the quite obvious, that the MAGAville is pretty weird and pretty creepy. Take a look.
I got to tell you, pointing out just an observation of mine that I made. I just have to say it. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy, and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see.
You love the cat. Me too. Me too. And MAGA got, very upset, very angry. Lies about the couch. And Steve Martin would be perfect playing him on SNL. I can't wait. This will be fantastic on the yard. Okay. So speaking of weird, right? He said pretty creepy, pretty weird, which is obvious. Speaking of weird, you've heard of the MAGAville are calling now Kamala Harris or Kamala or whatever. So a White House correspondent for Huffington Post inquired by texting a senior Trump campaign official as to why are they calling Kamala Harris this way. And this was the very adult exchange, as you see here. And he said, for those of you with real lives who do not have to monitor this criminal's social media feed, he has been calling VP Kamala Harris Kamabla. Oh yeah, Kamabla. Okay, so the reporter asked, why is he misspelling her name as Kamabla? The senior official goes, Kamabla. What does that mean? Kamabla. Can I use on the record? Kamabla. I thought I would never see this type of nonsense, since my kindergarten, like first, second grade, because I was harassed at school. Like I was the loser because I was nerd with glasses, all of it. So, but this during presidential election towards a woman who is current, very well achieved vice president, former attorney general of the state of California that is as big as a freaking country. Give me a damn break. Jesus. Okay. Continuing on the weird side. The owner of the Platform X says that Kamala Harris is quite literally a communist. She wants not merely equal opportunity, but equal outcomes. By the way, what I cannot share on X, hence I'm not doing this in this live stream. On the Substack thing, tonight I'm going to send a newsletter. Remember the owner of Platform X, who shall not be named, has a son who is a transgender, became a daughter, right? A girl. This is Vivian. Vivian changed her name from Musk to her mother's name. And Vivian is a beautiful soul, a beautiful girl who is embracing her new reality and who is not shying away of putting the, or let's say, checking her dad upon his lies and upon his manipulation and propaganda. So Vivian put two statements on threads that I want to present to you, but those are so straightforward and harsh that I'm going to add that to our newsletter tonight. So it's a screenshot. You're going to read it. You're going to hear from Vivian straightforward. I will not be showing it here or reading because I want to see you tomorrow here too. Okay? You feel me? Um, Now, Musk also, aside from saying that Kamala Harris is a communist, he also declared a war against advertisers. As you know, he hired a CEO, right? Linda Yaccarino, who was very well accomplished and appreciated at NBC, who in fact negotiated the entire Olympics situation, the coverage, because she spoke at their internal in New York. It was like an advertiser meeting with NBC, whatnot. Don't quote me. It was like a whole big thing at I think it was at the like Rockefeller Center there. And next day she went to Axe to work for Axe, which was very questionable. Everybody spoke about it in New York, like, what's that going on? So she worked for a year now, trying to get advertisers back. Now he is posting that she wrote an open letter to advertisers. Every day, hundreds of millions of people come to Axe to be part of the only global real time conversation. They come to share their thoughts and hear others, to share their content and see whatnot. So he says, we tried peace for 2 years, now it's war. So from what I hear, right, is that she's trying to do one thing and then he's sabotaging it with tweets. She's trying to, kind of rekindle those connections and relationships with advertisers. He brings everything back. So how long that's going to go, who knows? Let's check your comments real quick. Disrespectful. What? That's probably the Kamala comments. California has a larger population. Indeed. And like several countries in Europe too. There was an update to that tweet. He followed up again this morning and got the same response again. Or same response again. Do you all get to drink during the day to deal with this shit? You know what? With it, to your point, Kamala, one by SV date. Oh, okay. So, few reporters, we chatted and we're like, if God forbid Trump is elected and this is JD Vance and you have to be in pool, like working all day with JD Vance covering him, and he will be speaking on the record, off the record, and fact checking him. And then Trump, you pulling with Trump and he's speaking on the record, off the record, like all the time. You probably will have to, somehow get some type of treatment because I don't want to, anyway, I'll do it, but that will be tough. That will be very tough. I don't know how to, because you have to fact check it. Without that, it's just, you're just a part of your mouthpiece for a propaganda situation. So Trump also tweeted that he will be giving one of his best interviews, I think, on Monday night. He will be doing a major interview with Elon Musk. Details to follow. So this is his, well, it's marketed as his big return to X, which obviously just finalizes a platform turning into a right-wing thing. I've heard from many of you that you are switching to Threads, so I will be copy pasting same from now on, same news on both platforms. It's the same Onest Press. You see it here, right here, Onest Press. Same on Threads. Also, Onest Network is there as a backup. So, so if you're there, I'll reach you there as well. I think let's follow each other everywhere. So we're there. By the way, on X, I tried to follow people yesterday and got blocked from it. So Um, Whenever I can, I will. So let's continue. We're staying on the topic of weird. If you may recall, Angelina Jolie has a father, and that father is pretty weird. He's 85, John Boyd. He's a Trumper, and he recorded a new video where he declared that Trump is well, he came back to Earth to save us. Watch it.
The war of our lifetime now. We the people are in trouble if this nation picks Kamala Harris. We must stop this crime that is happening. It's a war crime that Obama is directing, and Kamala Harris will be the cackling hyena that just listens and repeats. If we do not stop this horror, you, my friends, will have the biggest horror that you will not know how to end. We must all see this truth, become one with this understanding that God will guide us with words of wisdom, that we may understand that Donald Trump will make any sacrifice to save America. We the people are in danger, and we must vote for President Trump because he will save this nation. And the left are all afraid of his strength because he is only for the people. He's not for the...
Or as another actor, Dennis Quaid, says,
people might call him an asshole, but he's my asshole.
well, you're not angry at your own asshole if it's, unfortunate. Oh, that makes sense. Join Blue Sky. I am on Blue Sky. I don't know what my tagline there is, but good point. Some people refer to those voices, and he's had a schizophrenia. Yeah, exactly. Join Boyd is Delulu. Yeah, yep. I listened to that. He has lost his mind, so out of touch with reality. Yes, it's a cult. Indeed, it is a cult. And by the way, Substack is a great platform because I've never used it. I started it like 22 days ago when I started with the newsletters. And it's really great. Like, there is a timeline. I post updates. I can add those updates here as a podcast. And everything is all in one. They have a great app. It has notifications. You can mute them. You can have them. Nobody's monitoring it. So it's really good community building skills. So tool. So if you are not subscribed, please go. It's free. Onest.substack.com. So if you join there, you'll get all the updates too. And my main point is for us to be connected in case, X or whatever platform, YouTube, whatnot, shuts me down. And then we're sort of, MIA. Can they all just drink the Kool-Aid already and put us out of the misery? I think so. What I've heard, which is I have to prove, but I've heard that Trump was filing for 2028 election, which is like, how old will he be at that point? 81. He's 78, right? 82. I also have heard that AOC is filing for 2028 election. So I guess there will be changes and there will be developments. But when I know for sure, I will share. Tomorrow, I have a call with other folks with AOC, and you posted your questions, what you wish me to ask. So I will do my best to do so, depending on how many people will be on the call. But I certainly will get to ask the question because I'm from New York, and I'm, probably will have a green light for that. The wonderful Angelina, lovely. Yeah, she fell very far from that tree, which is really, speaks, I think, more about her mom than her dad. And she was very much closer to her mom. Okay, let's continue. So, but all those Voights and Quaids and all that, who will they be voting for? As you may recall, I posted recently this quote from Donald Trump. So the Mark Zuckerberg called me fat. First of all, he called me a few times. She called me after the event that he said, she said, what said. But it's difficult to visualize how that sounds. Now look at that stable genius who's reciting that exact quote.
But I was called by Mark Zuckerberg yesterday, the day before, on this same subject. And he actually apologized. He said they made a mistake, et cetera, and they're correcting the mistake. Google, nobody called from Google. One of the things, like doing a show like yours, your show, you see it on Fox, But where you really see it is all over the place. They take clips of your show that you're doing right now with me, and if I do a good job, they're going to vote for me. They're going to vote for me because it's not just on Fox. It's on Fox is a smaller part of it. You're on all over those little beautiful cell phones. You're all over the place. You have a product. You have a great product. You have a great brand. So you have to get out. You have to get out. You have to do things like your show and other shows. And Google has been very bad. They've been very irresponsible. And I have a feeling that Google is going to be close to shutdown because I don't think Congress is going to take it. I really don't think so. Google has to be careful. Now, I will say this. I believe Mark Zuckerberg. He called me a lot. They are working on, and I think they fixed it.
But what?
And he's not doing what he did 4 years ago with the $500 million. I don't believe.
The Zuckerbucks.
Yeah, and he's not endorsing a Democrat, which is the first time in his life that he hasn't done.
What did he say? Zuckerberg called him. Then she asked about Zuckerbucks or whatever. I don't understand. Why is Google going to be shut down? Obviously, he doesn't like Google because the ex-wife of the Russian Google guy, Sergey Brin, is the running mate of RFK Jr. And by the way, I'm not going to cover the Bear story because it's really insulting to our intelligence. So, yeah, hell no. Okay. All of it is weird. All of it is, you can break your head trying to understand it. Let's not do that. Let's actually enjoy a compilation of Tim Walz's best moments with that's worth our time. It's 1 minute and 54 seconds where we get to meet him on a personal level and to see what's not weird. Let's take a look. This is how people around the world see America actually. And my rant, one of the first ones when we started those live streams where I said, dear Democrats, grab yourself by a pair and realize your strength. This is how foreign born, I'm Ukrainian born American citizen, but there's others who are coming here from around the world, risking their lives to come to America, land of opportunity. And we visualize those words, land of the free, more than those who are born here. Because this is the dream. This is the dreamland. And this is the energy that we, see America as, right? This positive energy, this big D energy, and in your face, ballsy, everything is possible, anything is possible. The attitude is this, we're arrogant, we stand for it, and we can deliver. That is what America is. So happy to see the joy. We need the joy back. Do you watch movie Inside Out? If joy is not in your head, you know what's happening. By the way, this is the state of finances of Team Walz. Walz doesn't own a single stock, according to financial disclosures and confirmed by a spokesperson. Same goes for his wife Gwen, per tax filings. His disclosures, both from his final year in Congress and his time as Minnesota governor, also show no mutual funds, bonds, private equities, or other securities, no book deals or speaking fees or crypto or racehorse interests, not even real estate. The couple sold their Mankato, Minnesota home after moving into Governor's Mansion for below $315K asking price. Their only investment assets appear to be via state pensions, including teacher pensions. Can we say normal? Can we say the dude is normal? Jeez, Louise, that is possible. Who knew? So it's altogether to see joy. It's altogether fantastic to see joy. And joy was seen yesterday after the very first rally when both families, the Harris and Demhoff and Waltzes, connected together, united, and enjoyed this joyous moment. Take a look. I just had this weird thought that these two guys will certainly help the white dude, you know, image, because it's like the old wild white man. Everything is for it, and like greedy, pushy, arrogant. Those two white dudes will certainly help that demographic with their image. I think it's already happening in my life. It's like, they're funny, they're fun, they're joyful, they're authentic. It's fantastic, man. It's really cool. Wow. I hadn't heard about his finances. Yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to show it to you, because proof is always in the pudding. So, but not my joy was in the recent interview that Nancy Pelosi gave, because there is that thought, there is that rumor, there is that aftertaste that she certainly played a role in President Biden passing the torch. And the question was, has she spoken to him? Take a look.
They make their own judgment and their own
Have
statement.
you spoken to President Biden since he
No.
dropped out?
No, I have not.
Do you hope to?
Yes, I hope to.
Yeah.
We're all busy.
Is everything okay with your relationship?
You'd have to ask him, but I hope
Okay.
so. But he knows. Look, I have loved Joe Biden, respected him for over 40 years. I was party chair in California, then I became member of Congress, and then one thing, other housewife, House member, House Speaker, working with him all along. I think he has made one of the biggest contributions to our country in the shortest period of time.
And Nancy's also running again, right? To your question, where are you during the rallies? There is it's a sensitive thing. I will go to a rally, but the problem is that if it's a part of VP's pool, yes. Going just to cover it as not part of the pool, and pool is very strict in terms of accreditation, rotation, and whatnot. I will go, but it has to be from the White House coverage side, not from the campaign coverage side, because those two are very different. And I certainly want to, and I am covering the White House and the administration rather than the campaign. Campaign will end in November, but I do my best covering it. I'm not covering Trump campaign, although I send inquiries for certain statements and never get any reply, as much as any other journalist or reporter. It's very choosy picky there. But certainly I will go to a rally as part of the poll. I saw she was on, but couldn't watch. Nancy is part of Judas Caucus. She's not going to win. We're going to talk about that too, by the way. That came up in the White House press briefing. So let's talk about J.D. Vance. He gave a sad rally this morning. It was in Michigan. That rally had more media personnel and reporters than people. Take a look.
Daughter who were just enjoying their day here in Shelby Township, and you had an illegal alien plow into them and kill this innocent mother.
Kind of reminded me on that Four Seasons situation, which had actually more people. But he, of course, started by attacking Walz. Take a listen.
Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? When was this? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. And if he wants to criticize me for getting an Ivy League education, I'm proud of the fact that my mamaw supported me, that I was able to make something of myself. I'd be ashamed if I was him and I lied about my military service like he did.
Can you just tell us what's the eyeliner? We want to know, especially people who need makeup for several hours. Like, for instance, I start a day in one place, right? Let's take DC for example. And I'm in one place, and then second and third and fourth, and it's raining and everything. And my eyeliner is running. Can you tell us what the eyeliner situation is? Because when I look at him, that's all I think about. Thankfully, I think it's my defensive, reaction. My body tries to protect me, and my mind. Stolen valor. What a stupidity. Those questions, by the way, were screamed at Tim Walz by the pool on tarmac. He ignored them. I don't think we shouldn't be discussing or giving more time to stupidity, because that just gives them reason to respond. So just, I think, ignore, But again, if there is a reply, I certainly will share. And of course, he spoke about Kamala Harris too. What did he say? Tim Walz is a person who promoted rioters burning down the biggest city in his state. And such a bad choice by Kamala Harris. Oh, by the way, just take a look.
That on the vice presidential issue, it's interesting what Tim Walz says about Kamala Harris. Tim Walz is a person, again, who promoted rioters burning down the biggest city in his state. This is a guy who wants to give driver's licenses to illegal aliens. This is a guy who wants to take children away from their parents if those parents don't consent to sex changes for minors. This is a radical human being who comes from the far left wing of the Democrat Party. And what Kamala Harris is telling all of us by selecting Tim Walz is that she bends the knee to the far left of the Democrat Party. She's done it every single time in government. She's done it in who she selected as her VP nominee. And she will do it if the American people give her a promotion to President of the United States.
A promotion to President of the United States. Is that how he sees it? Because all other nonsense is nonsense. But is that how he sees it? He comes into the White House as VP, and then he might be promoted to the President of the United States? This is not Silicon Valley, honey. This is not how it works. It's not a promotion. People choose you for a certain position. You're not getting promoted unless the other guy is knocked down. Is that what you're planning on? Call 911. Stable Genius called the Fox and Friends today. He very incoherently complained about Walz. Take a listen.
To be doing that, what he wants. If you look at his record with no walls, no security, let everybody in, he's worse than they are. Nobody knew how radical left she was, but he's a smarter version of her. If you want to know the truth, he's probably about the same as Bernie Sanders. He's probably more so than Bernie Sanders. She is more so than Bernie Sanders. That's got to be your guide, Bernie Sanders, and that's not a great guide. But there's never been a ticket like this. This is a ticket that would want this country to go communist immediately, if not sooner.
God bless Dory the fish, and Dory was lovable. Remember? She's like, oh, where are my parents? This guy is just never finds. Like Ellen DeGeneres is famous for deviating and finding the common thread by the end. This guy just has all the threads, and all of them are not connected. In Russia or like Eastern Europe, there's a joke. All the jokes are anti-women. So it's like, oh, a woman was running in the shopping center and they caught her, opened her head. There's only one strip and they cut it and ears fell off. Like there's, empty head. This is like, keep remembering this joke somehow. Like nothing is connected here. Nothing connects. Nothing. I don't know. Anyway, another try. He spoke about debating Kamala Harris pretty soon.
Look at this decision. This is a really bad decision for the country. Ultimately, I want the country to have good decisions because ultimately what we want is for the country to do well. The country can't do well with these two people. They're right. Very similar, and you would have thought she would have reached out and got somebody that's got some different, because her record on security is horrible. She was a border czar, which she doesn't admit it now. The only thing they have going is the media will play off all of the bad things that happened during her term. She was so bad that 5 weeks ago they wanted to remove her because she was unthinkable to be president. They were going to go with anyone. And then they were afraid that they would offend people if they did that. And all of a sudden, inch by inch, and then she ends up taking over. Now the same press that thought she was the worst vice president in history, which is true, going along with the worst president in history. And he went down after the debate, and there was nothing much they could do it. They tried to come back. Then they brought her in, and everybody said, it'll never be her. She's so bad. She's incompetent. And after they studied it a little bit, they realized it's not going to be so easy to do. So they say, well, look, the press is going to do whatever we want because the press is a rigged deal. The press is the media, outside of you people, of course, but the media is so they're trying to build her up to the next Margaret Thatcher liberal version, and I don't believe it's going to happen. I hear she's hasn't taken one interview. She would never do an interview like this. That I can guarantee with any network. She doesn't do interviews because she can't answer questions. I don't know how she debates. I heard she's sort of a nasty person, but not a good good debater. But we'll see, because we'll be debating her, I guess, in the pretty near future. It's going to be announced fairly soon, but we'll be debating her. I'd like to see it on Fox, by the way.
There's a difference between interview and diarrhea, verbal diarrhea. Because whatever we witnessed here is the verbal case of a verbal diarrhea. Has nothing to do with answering questions. I doubt there was a question. But remember that line that she's not answering questions. She's not talking to the press, because J.D. Vance took it to heart today. Because what did happen today, perhaps you perhaps you missed out on that. After the very successful rally yesterday, today, Harris and Walz traveled first to Michigan. And Wisconsin, my apologies, Wisconsin. So their first stop was Wisconsin for a rally, and then they flew to Detroit. And so J.D. Vance, I showed you, he was before in Michigan, and then he flew to Wisconsin. So J.D. Vance's plane and Air Force Two with Vice President Harris and Governor Tim Walz were at the same time on the tarmac. And so meanwhile, the crowd was going wild, waiting for Harris and Walz in Wisconsin to... So they all together welcomed 12,000 people, so it was all fantastic. Now, J.D. Vance decided to leave his plane and walk over to Air Force Two, claiming he wants to see his next plane. Take a look. White dudes agree, bad reputation, now getting a remake, much needed. Exactly. That's to my comment with Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz. Yeah, working on the white dude image. Vance was so creepy, stalking. Why didn't Secret Service step in? Yeah, exactly. And that's the question I will ask certainly tomorrow, because this is, it looks bad. It feels bad. If you have ever had a stalker, and I unfortunately had this experience, it makes you frightened. It changes you as a person because you cannot be yourself. And I felt scared for her. And my first thought was, I'm so happy Tim Walz is with her. Because it's like, but honestly, why do we even have those thoughts? This is vice president. Regardless, man or woman, there's Secret Service that is not so secret. And I'm not sure, we got to check on that service too. So then he walked over to VP Harris's pool. So if you know, Air Force One, same as Air Force Two, are landing. Back of the plane, the press, all the personnel are exiting, and then the press is gathered in one side. That is a press pool, and then whoever arrived, whether president, vice president, or any guests that traveled with them, if they want to stop and answer questions and talk with the pool, they can. So the pool was stationed there. They exit the plane. They were standing there, and JD Vance just walked over and tried to strike a conversation.
Vice President doesn't answer questions from reporters and hasn't for 17 days. Have they given you guys an explanation for why she won't take questions from reporters? No? Nobody? Okay, great. Well, I hope that she changes her mind because it'd be good for the American people, and I think it'd be good for you all if she actually ran a real campaign instead of one from a basement with a teleprompter. So have a good one, guys. See ya. What would you like to hear from her? I'd love her to answer these questions. I'd love her to just answer what she wants to do and also explain why every single position she has changed. She pretends to be a prosecutor, yet she pretends to be a tough on crime prosecutor, and yet here she is wanting to defund the police. She's the border czar, yet she's opened up the American southern border. This is a person who has to answer the questions from the media, and it's disgraceful that she runs for you guys. It's also insulting for the American people. But anyway, we're going to go do our event. I appreciate you guys being here. I wish she paid you some more attention. See ya.
I'm happy the pool didn't really talk to him or engage, aside from asking, why do you want to hear from her? What do you want to hear from her? Interesting question. But I appreciate you being here. Well, they're not here for you. They shouldn't be interacting with you. They're not covering you. Nobody is paying this pool to be covering you, nor anybody volunteered. There is a pool that is traveling with him because the person who was reporting on him, and I mentioned her name, that's where the first video came from. So there is a pool that is traveling with him. Talk to your own people. Talk to your own pool. You have media with you. What are you doing? That is a stalker vibe. That is disgusting. Honestly, just unmitigated. Yes. The Secret Service is severely compromised. Yeah, it's unacceptable. It is. Yeah, where the hell were they? They were standing right there. I'm not sure what the idea there is because, oh, he is the candidate, so he can talk to anybody? No. Did anyone answer him? No, they didn't. Were those Secret Service walking with him? Yes. Yeah, they're like Gestapo marching. Yeah, they were protecting him. So the Secret Service does anything to protect him. But where is Secret Service on Kamala Harris' side? That is my question, because this is just obnoxious and just disgusting at this point. Autocorrect, yeah. No, I figured unmitigated gal, yeah. Yikes. Now, back to the rally. So in Wisconsin, the rally started. Nobody was disturbed by all of this. It's just, I think we were more disturbed because Kamala Harris and Tim Walz didn't even catch on that. They were in the motorcade that was leaving as he walked to the pool. Kamala is running for president. He's a nobody that should have been stopped. Yeah, I think that is the closest he came to that plane. They need an overhaul majority. Yeah. This, I think it's bad taste. It's not presidential. It's not vice presidential. It's just really missing the point. And it just shows us that it's a bad choice. in VP. And it's a bad choice for Trump, quite frankly. He could have gotten, Nikki Haley or somebody who would have elevated his level. But he didn't want anybody who would stay, who would have stood out next to him because of wisdom and knowledge. And he didn't want anybody to compete next to him. So he chose this clown. I'm sorry, but I mean, and now imagine pooling and covering this. God, Jesus. Okay, back to the rally. So I showed you a bunch of clips of Tim Walz, and he said pretty much same speech with same rhetoric, which is acceptable and also expected. But he also shared his story. I want to offer you to watch a 2-minute clip of that. Take a look.
I was born in a small town in Nebraska where community meant everything. My mom and dad taught me to show generosity to my neighbors and work for a common good. At 17, I joined the Army National Guard. For 24 years, I proudly wore the uniform of this nation. And that service, just as it did for my dad, a Korean War veteran, and millions of others, I got the GI Bill and it gave me a shot at a college education. My dad was a teacher. My siblings were all teachers. And 3 of them married teachers. It's noble work. I had the privilege of teaching public school, social studies, and coaching football for 20 years. And for all you Packer and Badgers fans, yeah, we did win a state championship. So it's what we do. But it was my students who encouraged me to run for office. I never thought that much about it, but they saw in me what I was hoping to instill in them. This idea of a commitment to a better world, a common good, a belief that one single person can actually make a difference. I lived in a red district, but my neighbors were kind enough and graced me with the opportunity to go to the United States House of Representatives for 12 years to represent them. I learned how to compromise without compromising my values. And as governor of the great state of Minnesota, I brought all that experience.
So as you see, he shared his story. He is well-spoken. He doesn't need a teleprompter. You don't see him glancing anywhere. He's delivering, and he is speaking from his heart too, which is so rare when it comes to politics. And so then Kamala Harris spoke, and she first thanked President Biden.
He loves Wisconsin. He loves Wisconsin. And I know we are all deeply grateful for his lifetime of service to our nation and for all he continues to do. That's right.
And to your question, may we discuss elsewhere with others on what you say here? I'm new here. Very welcome. Thank you for joining. And this is blowing my mind. Yeah. So if you are a Substack subscriber, you're going to get an invite. We're doing town halls once a month so you can talk to each other. This is a Zoom thing. It's not streamed anywhere. It's private. It's only like-minded people, only subscribers. So you can meet there and discuss things. I answer questions. You can ask me, any requests, or I ask for your feedback, for your input about questions, for interviews and whatnot. So you're the insider, so to speak. So if you're not, since you're new, you probably don't know, subscribe to onest.substack.com, and there you get every night to your email 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, free. There's a tiny, like a $5 a month thing if you want to do it every day, but subscribe for free. You get your newsletter with all the news that I'm discussing here, plus anything else, way more than I'm discussing here, because otherwise this thing would be 5 hours every day. So you get your newsletter, like a newspaper that you can read at night or in the morning. Sometimes I'm sending it like at 3 a.m. because I'm working on it through the night. Just making sure you get your factual information. So just subscribe there. This is the safest bet. Class act all the way. Yeah, Kamala Harris, absolutely, yes. Hear the heartfelt things. Yeah, and this is so beautiful to hear, because let's not forget who started all of this. 20 years of yes, speaking to the classroom shows Walz's ability to speak in front of a crowd. Absolutely, absolutely, yes. Yes, absolutely. But also feel free, I'm back to this comment from Lisa. Feel free to go on X if you don't use X, Substack, all like-minded people who are subscribed, who are discussing things are all there. So I don't want to push you towards the X platform if you don't like it, but Threads, I promise you, starting tonight, I'm gonna post everything on Threads too. It's Onest Press, and on Sky, whatever. Thank you for finding me. I'm gonna change it to Honest Press so it's everywhere same. But certainly, we need more platforms just to be sure that we can engage in case something happens. Because I've heard a lot of people are, compromised on X. Okay, next thing is. VP Harris talked openly about what kind of week this has been. Take a look.
Wisconsin, this has been a big week. On Monday, I officially became the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. And yesterday, I announced my running mate in this campaign, Governor Tim Walz.
And just remember how big of a roller coaster it has been, right? With President Biden campaigning and she's supporting him. And then he decided to give her the chance to become the nominee. And it all, was a turmoil in 24 hours. She had to literally fly to Delaware, embrace the team. Thankfully, such a strong team behind the Biden-Harris campaign, then decide whom to pick. Now she's the nominee. Now she's so much. So that joyful man, Tim Walz, who's experienced, who is one of us, who is understanding the real issues that Americans are facing daily, it's good support and a good sport. And so then she spoke about what's at stake.
But let's make no mistake. This campaign is not just about us versus Donald Trump. It's about two very different visions for our nation. Two very different visions. One, for us, focused on the future. The other, focused on the past.
And thank you. I also don't call it X, I call it Twitter, but, just for us to be on the same page, so to speak. So later, Harris and Walz also traveled to Detroit, Michigan, which I will cover tomorrow because I don't want to overstay my welcome for too long. But tomorrow we're going to watch clips from the Detroit rally and also tomorrow's rally. Now, unfortunately, she will postpone her travel to Raleigh, North Carolina and Georgia because of the Storm Debbie. My plans are also just because of the Debbie, little Debbie. I always get hungry when I think about the little day. But anyway, I'm hoping that you're staying safe. I'm reporting on President Biden allocating aid, also FEMA working on helping people. If you are in need of help and you're in the states where it is available and you're somehow don't know what to do, where to call, contact me. I'll give you the phone numbers because we reporters, we get them from the White House. So before you start Googling or whatnot, you can ask. Certainly message me privately or email me. My email is connected to Instagram. My email is on the website, everywhere. I will help you right away or give you the phone number and whom to contact right away. I hope you're staying safe, and please always take all this advisory seriously. You never know when the advisory will be the realistic one. I remember in New York, like the Storm Sandy, right? And we thought, another story, whatever. But then it became something truly tremendous. And this time, also little Debbie's not that little and it's not that cute. So please stay safe. And if you're traveling, stay patient and be nice to those people who are helping us to travel. Listen, I spend hours at the airport, but stay nice. They're doing their best. It's not their fault. And they're paid their normal wage. They're not wage. Yeah. They're not, paid extra when they have to deal with all us who are nervous and pissed. So be nice. Okay. Be human. So tomorrow we're going to cover the Detroit, Michigan rally. In case there's bunch of stuff happened, I put it in the newsletter tonight. So take a look on that. So I wanted to share what Republicans and independent leaders were saying about Kamala Harris VP pick. I shared the entire thread on Twitter, but also in the newsletter yesterday. So if you're subscribing today, you have access to the newsletters before. So yesterday you could read all of it. And today I'm also in the newsletter sharing what the labor leaders are saying about Tim Walz. So stay tuned and read. But just to mention Senator Joe Manchin, my friend Governor Tim Walz will bring normality back to the most chaotic political environment that most of us have ever seen. All of the candidates were strong, and any of them would have been a great pick. But I can think of no one better than Governor Walz to help bring our country closer together and bring balance back to the Democratic Party. So also former Congressman Joe Walsh said, I think Tim Walz is a damn good pick. He's real, he's Midwest nice, he can speak to and listen to regular folks. And he's authentic. That makes him the complete opposite of J.D. Vance in every way. More was shared in the newsletter. Another readout that the White House today announced that indeed some House Republicans now wants to save the president's climate law. So the White House says when President Biden thinks about climate change, he thinks about jobs. Some House Republicans are starting to realize he's been right all along. So in a new E&E article today they reported that some House Republicans are telling their leadership not to gut the clean energy tax credits in the Inflation Reduction Act, the latest example of a growing rift within the Republican Party. So I'm sharing more on that in the newsletter, but it's an interesting development. And it's also those Republicans for Harris are doing their work and spreading the message and also listening and delivering too. Back to your comments real quick. Joe not running was so heartbreaking, but his choice by endorsing Kamala was smart. Indeed. Pot calling cattle back mention was part of it. Yeah, all of them are asshats. Well, most. But that's what I'm saying. When you think about media, when you think about elected officials use the story with Joe Biden and pressing him to pass the torch, which is like I tend to hate now this sentence, as your lens to see who's who. Like elephants, you forgive but never forget. Okay, next is at the White House, we had the press briefing yesterday and today. Of course, there were questions on the Middle East, which will be covered with my readout from the National Security Council chat and gaggle with John Kirby that I will read out soon. But also they talked about, or Karine Jean-Pierre, the spokesperson for the White House, had a readout from President Biden, who engaged with both Egyptian and Qatari leadership, and he thanked them for helping to negotiate it in a diplomatic way or find a diplomatic solution to the peace deal. He claimed that or stated that the peace deal is in the final stages of being approved by both Israeli and Hamas part. Hamas has now a new leader since the previous one traveled to Tehran and was sort of assassinated by Israel. So that leader was, in fact, in charge of signing that peace deal. So there's a lot of development going on there. But what President Biden and the administration are doing is trying to do their very best together with Egyptian leaders, Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, to find a diplomatic solution and not to engage in more or in broader war, right, or full-scale war. So also there were questions on President Biden's schedule not being busy enough, because it says that he has the briefing, he has few meetings, and then they call a lid. He's working. President is 24/7 president. So let's not speculate there, because so many things that he's working on right now are on diplomatic level that are so closely related to national security that not much has to be shared with public. And actually, if we engage our common sense and brain, we would thank him for not doing that. Go back to Trump, who blabbered all around. This can cost people's lives, literally. So let's give him the ability to serve for all of us. But there were some few weird questions. So weird question number one was about transitioning.
Here at the White House, have you guys started the transition process, and who's going to be in charge of that? And
why are you trying to kick us out already? We've got 5 months.
It's a lot more work than people realize to pack up an administration.
I don't have anything to share about that at this time.
To pack up administration, first of all, we didn't have an election yet, honey, whoever you are. We did not have the election yet. I don't think any random Joe Schmo would even have this question as to transition to whom. That's why we have the period from November till January 20th, till the inauguration, to do what needs to be done. What are you talking about? Another weird question.
As the vice president begins her battleground state travels this week, many Black and brown Americans are still looking to learn more about the vice president, particularly her work here at the White House. And given that, can you speak to the role the vice president has played in advising or crafting some of this administration's signature equity policies, whether that be Justice 40 investments in infrastructure and climate, or investments in Black businesses, et cetera?
I mean, look, they're partners. The president and the vice president have been critical partners. They are. They're partners in everything that has been done come out of this administration, the Biden-Harris administration.
So I would suggest Google what are the responsibilities of vice president, and never ever dare to apply this angle as to Black and brown communities are questioning, what is vice president doing? Are you implying that she's not doing enough for people of color or for Black and brown communities? What are you implying here? What are you asking? Google it. It's literally everywhere. Open the whitehouse.gov. Read the statements. You'll see what she's exactly doing. Obviously, she's partnered with the president. Obviously, she has been a part of all the decisions that have been taken. For Christ's sake. Trump tweeted, what are the chances that crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in history of the U.S., who's blah, 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 blah. So pretty much what he means here is, what if he crashes the Democrat National Convention and tries to take back the nomination? Trump, sir, crushing something and taking back something by force, whether it's a woman, democracy, or the country, is your stick. It's your style. Taking somebody by force who wants nothing to do with you. That's you. That's not Joe Biden. Don't project. It's you. You like it. I like it, Picasso. That's you. That's not him. Don't project. He doesn't even have thoughts like this. 100% guarantee. So, but again, that came up at the White House, so it was asked. Take a look.
I wanted to ask you another question that just was out there on social media, and maybe you can reply to it. The former president has made this suggestion that the current president may still want to be the Democratic presidential nominee. Put that out on social media. Does the president, I see your reaction, that's why I want to ask you this, does the president in any way lament his decision to drop out of the race?
The president is proud of his decision. He's proud of his decision.
He's a man who has everything right there. Everybody's home, if you know what I mean. He's not going to do that. Trump likes throwing people under the bus and, pulling the rug under their feet. No, it's not Joe Biden. Also, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked to comment on Cori Bush. Just to read out, Democratic Republican Representative Cory Bush and a member of the hardline left-wing squad that is harshly critical of Israel was defeated Tuesday in the Missouri primary by an opponent who attracted millions of dollars in pro-Israel money. Ahead of the Missouri primary on Tuesday, political action committees affiliated with the American Israel Public Affairs Committee spent at least $9 million to defeat Bush, one of the first lawmakers to call for a ceasefire after Hamas launched a war with Israel on October 7th, and also a leader in efforts to defund aid to Israel. Progressive groups spent a smaller amount, though still in the millions, on behalf of Bush. In her statement, she said, "We will keep supporting a free Palestine." Bush said a crowd member answered back, "Free, free Palestine." She also vouched to take down the AIPAC. Let's take a look what the White House has to comment on that.
Cory Bush, she gave a speech last night after the results came in, and she said to AIPAC, who spent heavily against her, "I'm coming to tear your kingdom down." Does the president have an opinion on that statement?
So, look, the president has always been very clear, and very recently after the assassination attempt of the last president, about lowering rhetoric, right? Lowering political rhetoric, and the importance of doing that. It is important that we be very mindful of what we say. This kind of rhetoric is inflammatory and divisive and incredibly unhelpful.
Yeah. And to your point, yeah, stupid questions. Absolutely. I think it's on the level of if we were to ask Corinne Jean-Pierre to comment on the newest episode of Kardashians. Like, what do you think about Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson? You know, that's where my knowledge stopped and started. You know, like, because this is gossip. Trump is tweeting. Trump is the reality star, so he runs his campaign as a reality show. Reality show always needs drama to be afloat, so you're tuning in to watch this. Actually, I almost said something. This product. So he's promoting his product, and he is the product here, and drama is beneficial. Quick readout from the FBI. Pakistani national with ties to Iran, charged in failed plot to assassinate U.S. officials. They're not saying whom, although at the White House the question was brought up yesterday at the meeting and at the presser, and it was hinted that Iran is pursuing Trump or his base since the assassination of Soleimani. But the readout does not mention who was targeted. So they said on August 6th, a complaint was unsealed in Brooklyn charging Asif Merchant, also known as Asif Raza Merchant, with murder for hire in connection with an alleged scheme to assassinate a U.S. politician or governmental official. The guy is 46. He's in federal custody, and law enforcement successfully thwarted the plot before any attack could occur. So he, according to complaint, he arrived from Pakistan in April 2024 after spending time in Iran, sought to hire individuals to carry out the assassination. He initially contacted a confidential source who reported Merchant's intention to law enforcement. He then planned to have the assassination carried out after his departure from the U.S., using code words to communicate with the associates from overseas. He met with undercover FBI agents in New York, believing them to be hitmen, and discussed his plans involving theft, protest, and assassination. He paid $5,000 in advance for the murder and made arrangements to leave the U.S. on July 12th. However, he was arrested by law enforcement before he could depart. The Justice Department and FBI have emphasized their commitment to countering threats from foreign actors and protecting national security. The case is being prosecuted by assistant U.S. attorneys and trial attorneys from the National Security Division's counterterrorism section. The charges against Merchant are allegations, and he is presumed innocent until proven guilty in court. So, on a better note, Olympics are coming to an end. I hope you got a good a glimpse of it. I certainly haven't. I'm planning on it for the next weekend. But second gentleman Doug Emhoff is already en route to Paris. So he's there from August 7th today to 12th. So on behalf of President Biden, the second gentleman will lead presidential delegation to closing ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. He will also meet with Team USA athletes and attend various Olympic events. In addition to his Olympic engagements, the second gentleman will engage with government officials and senior leaders at UNESCO. He will convene a roundtable to highlight global efforts to promote Holocaust education and combat anti-Semitism. Furthermore, second gentleman will deliver remarks at the annual commemoration for the victims of the 1982, this I can't pronounce for sure, Rue de Rosiers attack. My bad. I will correct myself tomorrow. I'll Google how to pronounce it. This is French, literally. And a bit on the Middle East. And I have exact quotes for you from NSC's John Kirby, because I don't want to edit it or add my opinion to it. So he was first asked about the new Hamas leader, Sinwar. He said, quote, "The man is a terrorist. He has an awful lot of blood on his hands. The guy was the architect of 7th of October attacks on Israel, and some of that blood on his hands is American blood. He has always been a chief decision maker when it comes to negotiations over the course of this now 9 months. So in effect, nothing really changes in that regard. And as the chief decision maker, he needs to decide now to take this deal, to get a ceasefire in place, to get some of the hostages home, and to get us all an opportunity to get more humanitarian assistance in. He needs to accept the deal." So next, he was asked on the peaceful talks between or being on at the final stage, as I mentioned. He said, quote, "What we're talking about here is recognizing the fact that we've come an awful long way. There's a good proposal before both sides, and they need to both accept that proposal so we can get this in place. We're as close as we think we have ever been, and that's why we talk about it in these terms. And again, absolutely zero has changed about the sense of urgency with which we're trying to get it in place," end quote. He then added that the deal hasn't been accepted because neither side has signed up for it or to it. "We believe that both sides need to do the final bit of work here to come to a conclusion on this thing." And then on the potential attack from Iran, which has been, publicized as the next World War III. So he said, quote, "We don't want to see this conflict escalate. We certainly don't want to see any sort of all-out regional war. And there's not a whole lot of indications that other parties here want to see the same thing, which is why we're working really, really hard with intense diplomacy to try to avoid an escalation. Can't predict that we're going to be 100% successful in that, which is why President ordered additional military resources to region to make sure that should Israel be attacked, that the United States would be able to come to her defense." I'll leave it at that. He then later added, "If there's an attack, what I can tell you for sure is the United States is and will remain postured to help defend Israel with a wide range of military capabilities. What other nations decide to do or don't do is up to them to speak to," end quote. So then, as you may have heard, U.S.-based in Al-Assad, U.S. military base has been attacked, and several U.S. military personnel were injured. On that, he says, quote, "My understanding is that some of the individuals who were wounded have returned to duty and that some are undergoing additional medical care outside of the region, but I would refer you to DOD to get any more detail on that." There's been no communication from President or the White House to these members or their families. I think we can all understand that right now, particularly those that are still seeking medical care, that needs to be the focus. It's getting better. And we want to, of course, give them the time and space to do that. He later also reiterated that all service members who are getting treatment are in stable condition. So, again, I present quotes to you directly from National Security Council, so you can make your opinion or not, right? I believe in factual information. I present my thoughts on it in the newsletter tonight. Also, there was a big discussion on Ukraine bombing or invading Russia in the Kursk region, which is about 200 kilometers from Ukraine. So, what I can tell you is that if you want to prevent an attack to the near border region within Ukraine, you have to attack the military targets within Russia where they shoot those missiles from. And that is what Ukraine is doing. So I will not reiterate on that or add more information until I get more information, literally from Ukrainians and from their side on what weaponry has been used. Is it F-16s? Is it American? Is it Ukrainian-made drones? Is it from other NATO allies? I will tell you that when I know that. This is exactly what is happening. Ukraine is not willing to invade Russia, and Russia can stop everything right now by just leaving Ukraine alone. Withdraw, end it. But if they keep hitting the near border regions, I was born in Kharkiv, where my parents are from, my family is from. The only way to defend Kharkiv is not with the, Patriot systems or any defense systems, because there's not much time when they shoot that missile across the border to even shoot it down. So you have to attack the military base, right? And the from where everything is launched. So that is what Ukraine is doing. Now, Kirby said in the meeting, quote, "I let the Ukrainians speak at their operations one way or the other. That's most appropriate. So I would refer to the Ukrainian armed forces to speak to that, to what they're doing. We're going to stay focused on making sure they have what they need to defend themselves, of course. And I would also just add that nothing has changed about our policy with respect to enabling or encouraging strikes or attacks inside Russia outside the bounds, of course, of what we have permitted them to do with US supplied weapons in the past, which is to target imminent threats just across the border. The last thing I would add is that we are, as you would expect we would be, reaching out to our Ukrainian counterparts to get a little bit better understanding. So this remains to be seen, and I'll report facts as soon as I know. Also, US today warned Turkey over aid to Russia. And Turkey is part of EU. Turkey is part of NATO. So working closely with EU. Now, American authorities have issued a stern warning to Turkey regarding the export of military equipment to the Russian Federation, according to Financial Times. The U.S. demands an immediate halt to the supply of microcircuits and other components used to Russian military technology. In Russian military technology. U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce Matthew Axelrod recently visited Ankara and Istanbul with the goal of curbing illegal trade that supplies Russia with American origin technology. During his visit, Axelrod voiced U.S. concerns and emphasized, quote, "We need Turkey to help us stop the flow of American technology to Russia. We need to see progress, and fast, from the Turkish government and industry, or we will have no choice but to impose consequences on those who evade our export controls." Pretty straightforward. And honestly, it was Turkey and Orban and, Erdogan, Orban. This is like you have a family with a traitor in it. They certainly have to decide which side they're on. You can't count on NATO protecting you and then sabotaging everything NATO tries to achieve, supporting Russia that is invading a sovereign country. So, quickly about UK, I talked about the riots that were following the very unfortunate killing of kids that were learning Taylor Swift moves by a 17-year-old guy who that was not framed as a terrorism, although the details are still pending on that investigation. But since the AI and online propaganda that evolved into riots against Muslim community in the UK and England specifically, and so since then, Prime Minister Starmer has held the Cobra meeting. That's their security meeting, and he reported on that. So take a look.
The Cobra meeting was to coordinate our response to the disorder, and I made it very clear on a number of occasions that those involved will feel the full force of the law. So we coordinated, we went through some of the numbers. Over 400 people now have been arrested, 100 have been charged, some in relation to online activity, and a number of them are already in court. And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week. That should send a very powerful message to anybody involved, either directly or online, that you are likely to be dealt with within a week, and that nobody should be involving themselves in this disorder.
And so it was reported that those sentences have been passed, so take a look.
Some breaking developments now on sentences being passed down at Liverpool Crown Court. 3 sentences passed down in the last few minutes. The final, Liam James Riley, 40, of Kirkdale, pleaded guilty to violent disorder in Liverpool city centre, has been jailed for 20 months. That's following the events of the past few days. Previously, a sentence of 30 months to Declan Gearan of Liverpool, pleaded guilty to violent disorder and arson on a police vehicle in Liverpool city centre. Meanwhile, Derek Drummond, 58, of Liverpool, pleaded guilty to violent disorder and assaulting an emergency worker in Southport. He was sentenced to 3 years in jail. So 3 years, 30 months and 20 months passed down in the last few moments in Liverpool Crown Court.
And I'm so happy to see these developments, because online criminal activity is still criminal activity. And so much is being provoked by AI generated footage, by just propaganda, everything on Twitter, and a bunch of stuff that is just affecting people's mindset and tapping on that point where it hurts, where somebody, that's their point where they go obnoxious because they're hateful against certain demographic, and then it escalates in this riots where so many people are suffering, getting hurt and dying. So I'm happy to see those developments. I would love to see this sort of law as well, regulating AI activity and propaganda specifically. So on that, US and Sweden held key dialogue on the Indo-Pacific global security. So on August 5th, US and Sweden held a dialogue in Washington, D.C., co-chaired by Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell and Swedish State Secretary of Foreign Affairs Knutsson. The discussions focused on joint priorities for free and open Indo-Pacific, including upholding international law, maintaining peace in the Taiwan Strait, and ensuring maritime security. They also talked about China's support for Russia, North Korea's military cooperation with Russia, and human rights issues. So Sweden just joined NATO, so a great development of them, aside from joining NATO, working together with the United States on the Indo-Pacific, securing the region because of the potential threat that could be faced by all nations from China. Also, US and Australia held talks. Anthony Blinken, our Secretary of State, and Australia's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Penny Wong, signed a memorandum of understanding to strengthen cooperation between the United States and Australia on countering foreign state information manipulation. And that is connected to the AI-generated stuff, right? So they signed memorandum where they are exchanging information, exchanging intelligence, and also learning altogether how to counter that. Details, again, are in the newsletter, because it's been very long live stream already. And in the Indo-Pacific, Biden's Indo-Pacific diplomacy has made America's future more secure. In the newsletter that was sent last night, I shared an article, and I encourage you to read it. It's written by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who talk about Biden's wisdom and approach to securing the Indo-Pacific and how his way of diplomacy has helped us to achieve it. So I encourage you to read it. The link is there. It's a tribute to him, really, in the Washington Post. And speaking of tributes, I'm organizing a tribute watch party. So President Biden will be speaking at the first opening night of DNC on August 19th, and I'm inviting you to watch it together. Also, just engage with each other, perhaps share stories, just honoring President Biden, expressing our gratitude. We'll have some people just sharing tributes and sharing their stories as well. So I'm encouraging you to RSVP. If you're watching on Twitter, it's the first link underneath this live stream, and in the newsletter, always below the very last segment is inviting you to join. Please RSVP as fast as you can. There you also have an opportunity to upload a 30-second sort of tribute if you want to thank President Biden, and I will make sure to pass all of it to the White House. So on this note, just on a funny thing, I know it's escalated yesterday when I posted it. Yes, this is a real picture. So Taylor Swift posted a gallery of different pictures, this panorama thing, from Poland. And on the 7th picture, you see her and sort of a figure that kind of looks, a shadow, kind of looks like Kamala Harris. And I asked Swifties, is that an endorsement? Because I don't know. Maybe it's an Easter egg, maybe it's not. Certainly, we would love to see it. But remains to be seen what will follow next. And so if you go to Substack, onest.substack.com, there you can subscribe to get your news into your mailbox. So into your email. Again, free. Please subscribe there. We can communicate, and there you can get the latest news. So I will be live tomorrow per usual. And then for Friday, I will ask you to vote if you want to see me at 5 p.m. or 9 p.m. because Friday is always a thing. And I can't do in between. So either 5 or 9. So you'll vote soon. But thank you so much for joining me. It's been super long live stream, but I wanted to deliver all the news to you. And thank you for surviving it together with me and for your comments. I appreciate every single one of them. So thank you. Stay safe. Read the newsletter if you can. And see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.